Hello and welcome to New Frontiers on CCTV International. I'm Ji Xiaojun in Beijing. In our program today, we're continuing with our major series about Chinese civilization. 1500 years ago, in the wake of the demise of the Qing and Han dynasties, China was ruled by the Wei and Jin dynasties. Now, this was an era of great social transformation and also a cultural golden age. Under the influence of Taoist philosophy, many extraordinary artists emerged. Notably, a major breakthrough was seen in Chinese traditional painting. Artists began to stress the spirit of landscapes and objects in their work rather than the actual form.
The second tremendous social change after the Spring and Autumn period and the Warring States period in Chinese history took place during a time when China was under the rule of the Wei and Jin dynasties and the Northern and Southern dynasties. At this time, ethnic groups in North China merged on a large scale, and much of the culture of the Central Plains was taken to the south by immigrants. For a period of 400 years after the Spring and Autumn and Warring States periods, the Chinese created a rich legacy for future generations. It was an era of great advance in philosophy and the arts. In the arts in particular, there were breakthroughs in every field. This was also an era that made it possible for the emergence of many people of great talent. During the 400 years from the end of the Han dynasty to the Wei and Jin dynasties, all forms of Chinese art reached a new peak and entered a new realm of aestheticism, as if by some great miracle. Chinese scholars of the time had a burning passion for impractical philosophical theories. They spent much of their time visiting natural sites, discussing philosophical theories, drinking wine, and composing prose poems. And in the process, they unexpectedly achieved breakthroughs in artistic creation.
当时在艺术上呢，就是以自然为最高的标准，就是人能够从自然当中得到的那种启发，无论是内在的还是外在的，都是讲究非常美、非常绚丽、非常灿烂。那内在的精神它很灵动，很有这种我们讲自然的这种变化。 这种审美呢，就是我们知道当时包括这个山水诗啊，这个很多山水画啊，它都非常强调这种传神，都强调它的一种流畅，强调它的这种自然的这种意味。
Chinese landscape paintings are not required to present a mountain or a river in its true form. Instead, the painter draws a picture of a scenic spot on the basis of the many scenic spots he has visited. During the Wei and Jin dynasties, Chinese painters began to rise from a level that had them depicting real subjects to one where they expressed their inner thoughts. They placed greater stress on freehand brushwork than they did on faithful representation. They emphasized conveying the spirit rather than depicting actual form. The creation of landscape paintings reached a new peak during the time China was under the rule of the Five Dynasties and the two Song dynasties. Painters living in this time depicted the mountains of the north and the long stretches of exquisite natural scenery in the south. The most creative brushwork in landscape painting during the Song dynasty is represented by Mi Fu and his son Mi Youren. Their paintings are jointly known as Cloud-Veiled Mountains. Mi Fu was a renowned calligrapher who had a profound understanding of the abstract beauty of brushwork. He once said, "Painters of landscapes have been very much the same. Very few of them have broken away from the established rules." Mi Fu adopted a new approach to ink wash painting, with emphasis placed on graceful rhythms instead of accurate representation of form. Chinese scholars in the Yuan dynasty worshipped the Wei Jin time when the learning of mystery prevailed. These Yuan dynasty scholars wanted to lead the kind of close-to-nature and leisurely lives the Wei Jin scholars had led, and so they followed the example of the great philosopher and hermit Lao Tzu and went to great efforts to assimilate the artistic elements of the Wei Jin time. The composition and brushwork of their landscape paintings reached a state in which the feeling of real objects is found in blank areas, and blank areas give the feeling of the presence of real objects. They aimed to integrate nature with individual personality. Artists living in the Wei and Jin dynasties pursued a natural style. They created an Oriental art ideology and developed aesthetic concepts such as spiritual rhythm and spiritual form.
近代是一个非常特殊的时期，这个时期的社会非常的动荡，但是中华文明呢，似乎在这里走到了一个他自己的一个高峰。以前积聚的一些思想、感觉，还有艺术上的成就、文化上的成就，在这里都好像汇聚成一个灿烂之点。它形成了中国文化的某些基调。 精神上的某些主干，比如说潇洒旷达，关注自己内心的生活，对某些境界的无限的向往，这些等等，都影响到后世的发展，整个后代的精神的生活。
Another highlight of this cultural golden age was grotto art, which embraced wall painting, stone sculpting, and carving. Grotto art flourished under the growing influence of a new religion in China, Buddhism.
When the Silk Road opened during the Han Dynasty, Chinese silk and other goods began to be conveyed on the backs of camels through the immense desert to Central Asia and further on to Rome. Along this great trade route, a variety of civilizations converged and fused. During the Jin dynasty, Buddhist monks from the western regions began to travel to central China, bringing with them Buddhist scriptures and the skills needed to build stone grottos. Buddhist grotto carvings appeared first in Xinjiang, then northwest China, the Central Plain, and finally in areas south of the Yangtze River. One day at dusk in the year AD 366, a Buddhist monk named Le Zun arrived in Dunhuang. When he looked up Mingsha Hill, he saw the gorgeous rays of light bouncing off a cliff of the hill, and it seemed in the dazzling light that thousands of images of the Buddha were greeting him. The reflection of that sunset glow on Sanwei Hill led to the construction of China's largest group of grottos, and they would become the greatest treasure house in the history of Chinese civilization. At Dunhuang, monk Le Zun decided to cut short his westbound tour, and he set about hiring men to dig a grotto in a sheer cliff on Mingsha Hill and carve Buddhist statues. The main characteristic of the Mogao grottos is the well-planned combination of buildings, statues and wall paintings. The Mogao murals feature concise forms, unrestrained lines and bold colours. The flying lines and bold images never fail to astound those who behold them. From the depiction of the heavenly kingdom, we can see that painters from northwest China worked with great passion and with minds unrestrained by conventional rules. They displayed in the paintings the gallant spirit of the people of the far northwest. Since ancient times, it has been said of Chinese artistic styles that those in the north are gallant, while those in the south are exquisite. Geographically, China can be divided into two large regions, with the Qinling Mountains and the Huaihe River as the demarcation line, and these two regions are very different in terms of topography, climate, and natural environment. During the Wei and Jin dynasties, scholars and artists developed the notion of gallant north and exquisite south to the extreme. This concept was enhanced to the point where it brought about a fusion of different ethnic groups on a scale unique in Chinese history. At the fall of the former Qin dynasty in the year AD 384, Tuo Bagui, the chieftain of the Xianbei tribe, saw his opportunity and established the Wei dynasty in present-day Inner Mongolia. In the year AD 398, Tuo Bagui moved his capital to Pingchang, present-day Datong in Shanxi province. In the following year, he declared himself emperor. His regime is called by historians the Northern Wei dynasty. In the winter of 2003, archaeologists working in the northern part of Datong city uncovered the remains of buildings from the Northern Wei dynasty, and these buildings provided important evidence for the charting of the history of the Northern Wei. After the Northern Wei Empire unified North China, after some time its emperor came to understand the importance of civil administration. He began to give government posts to scholars of the Han ethnic group, China's majority ethnic group, and adopt the more advanced Han culture and system of rituals. Gradually, the emperor guided his regime into feudal society. During the Northern Wei dynasty, more than 1 million ethnic minority people integrated themselves with the majority Han people, and the gallant nomadic civilization from the grasslands injected stamina into the already vigorous culture of the Central Plain. Thus, the culture of the Central Plain took on a new outlook with a strong individual character. The most important manifestation of the cultural characteristic particular to the ethnic groups of North China is the region's large number of Buddhist grotto carvings. During the 100 years in which construction of the Mogao grottos was underway, people living in the Hexi area also built grottos. In Gansu province, local people built the Yulin grottos at Wanfo Gorge, the Majishan grottos at Tianshui, the Tiantishan grottos at Wuwei, the Bingling Temple grottos in Yongjing County, and the Ma-Ti Temple grottos in Jiangye. Yet all these grottos, including those in Mogao, were not the finest produced during that period of Chinese history. Shortly after